Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show today, as the battle between Ukraine and Russia continues, it looks like the real price in the Ukraine war is not Ukraine itself, but rather the natural resources beneath its soil. Also on the show, US President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Hamas, warning that all hell would break loose if the remaining hostages are not returned. We'll get the details on the show tonight. Also on Gravitas, we will take you through Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's agenda as he gears up to meet US President Donald Trump. All that and a lot more lined up. Let's get you started.
As far as I'm concerned, get all of the hostages.
Our top focus on Gravitas. American support for Ukraine comes with a price tag. And the price is $500 billion in mineral resources. Yes, you heard that right. That is the deal that the US President Donald Trump wants. And that is his price for sending Ukraine weapons and material in its war against Russia. He wants American companies to get the right to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Otherwise, Russia will get them. In his words, and I'm quoting him here, they may be Russian someday. In an interview with Fox News, Trump claimed that the United States is in for more than $300 billion, probably $350. In various forms of aid to Ukraine, he said that it would be stupid for Washington to continue bankrolling Ukraine without receiving anything in return. Ukraine, battered and bruised by 3 years of war, is agreeing to Trump's demands. It is becoming increasingly clear that the real price in the Ukraine war is the hidden one. Ukraine's real war is a battle for its natural resources, which could be worth trillions of dollars. Before we go ahead, take a look at this map. There might be a problem for America. This map shows Ukraine's minerals and where they are located. A little over $26 trillion of Ukraine's mineral resources, which is around 53% of the country's total, are contained in the 4 regions. That includes Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. But you know what else is common among these 4 regions? Well, they're all under Russian control currently. In September 2022, Putin unilaterally annexed these regions. Additionally, the region of Dnipropetrovsk, which borders the largely occupied regions of Donetsk and Zaporizhia and is sitting in the face of an advancing Russian army. It also contains an additional 2.8 trillion pounds in mineral resources. And if you go further down in the map, you'll see that the Crimean Peninsula, annexed and occupied by Putin's forces in 2014, also holds roughly £165 billion worth of minerals. The list of rare earth minerals found in Ukraine also includes beryllium, manganese, gallium, and all these are used for manufacturing semiconductors and LEDs. Uranium, zirconium, graphite, apatite, fluorite and nickel, they are, according to the Institute of Geology, Ukraine possesses rare earth elements like cerium and lanthanum. They are used in TVs and lighting. Meanwhile, neodymium is used in wind turbines and EV batteries. Erbium and yttrium are used for nuclear power lasers. Well, according to Forbes magazine, in 2023, Ukraine's mineral resources amounted to 111 billion tons, mainly consisting of coal and iron ore, worth $14.8 trillion. Remember, when Putin first sent troops to Ukraine in 2022, he cited the protection of people in Donbass as a key reason for launching the military operation in Ukraine. And in the nearly 3 years of war, Russia has not shied away from calling a spade a spade. It has, on several occasions, exposed the real intention behind NATO's support for Ukraine. In October 2024, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the resources in these areas are a major factor in the support of NATO for Kyiv. I'm quoting him here further. Their discourse revolves around regions and resources that they require in America. Our concern is not the area, but people, unquote. And it's undeniable, NATO experts have noted that the strategic importance of Ukraine's minerals cannot be overstated. The European Commission has identified Ukraine as a potential supplier for over 20 critical raw materials. As for the US in 2023, the USG estimates that the value of rare earth minerals and metals imported by the US was $190 million. In 2024, the US relied on China, Malaysia, Japan and Estonia for 80% of its rare earth needs. Currently, China controls a large portion of global industrially used rare earth minerals, supplying about 40% of EU's requirements. And to decrease this dependency, the US and EU have been working together for years. And of course, Kyiv seems to be well aware of its position. It would explain right now as to why Zelensky has been dangling, allowing the US to develop its country's natural resources as a tactic to keep Trump on his side. Washington wants to outpace China in this field. As for US President Donald Trump, he's just more than happy to voice Washington's desire to exploit Ukraine's mineral resources. And that's the real war for Ukraine right now. A darker crisis is unfolding in Ukraine. American weapons meant for Ukrainian troops have allegedly landed in the hands of Mexican drug cartels. This next report explains how a perfect storm of corruption threatens both Ukraine's survival and US border security. Take a look.
Russia's relentless assault continues to devastate Ukraine's infrastructure with missiles from the Black Sea targeting Kyiv and other regions. Each day brings news of fresh Russian territorial gains, while Ukrainian troops face critical ammunition shortages. Along the Pokrovsk front, Ukrainian forces struggle against Russian infantry assaults. their defense compromised by severe manpower shortages. Desertion rates climb as exhausted soldiers flee a depleted, demoralized military. Behind the visible crisis, a more insidious threat emerges. Ukrainian authorities launched desperate raids across 1,000 locations. Uncovering vast networks of illegal arms sales. Trophy weapons, ammunition and explosives meant for defenders instead disappear into shadowy markets. The corruption cases aren't isolated. Several high-ranking Ukrainian officials have been arrested in corruption cases. Now, American journalist Tucker Carlson's explosive revelation suggests these weapons now arm Mexican drug cartels. This unprecedented security breach not only undermines Ukraine's defense, but threatens America's southern border. This crisis strikes at the heart of Western support, with President Zelensky rushing to Munich for crucial meetings with Trump administration officials. These allegations threaten to derail vital military aid. Ukraine faces a devastating choice: tackle internal corruption or lose the war against Russia.
It's just gargantuan. I mean, you know, the Ukraine government and country was regarded as the number one most corrupt country in Europe before the war started. And you can be sure that after flooding it with so many, literally billions of dollars, and you've had Zelensky himself admit that he doesn't know where $100 billion of that went, and it's anybody's guess to where it was, but there are way too many reports of high-ranking people that were, jailed, that were under investigation.
The ramifications extend far beyond Ukraine's borders. These weapons, intended to defend European democracy, now potentially fuel cartel violence along the US-Mexico border. Each diverted weapon represents a dual threat, weakening Ukraine's defense while strengthening criminal enterprises abroad. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock.
اعتمادنا على الله من يتكل على الله فهو حي.
And after that, all hell is going to break out.
We now turn our attention to West Asia. US President Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum. If Hamas fails to return all remaining Israeli hostages by this Saturday, the ceasefire in Gaza should be scrapped. And in his words, and I'm quoting, all hell is going to break out. Take a listen.
As far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
So Trump's comments come just hours after Hamas accused Israel of violating the terms of the ceasefire and announced a delay in releasing the hostages. Trump also said that many of the Israeli hostages may already be dead and expressed doubt that Hamas would comply. Hamas, meanwhile, insists that Israel has violated the ceasefire deal. The group claims that Israeli forces have delayed the return of displaced Palestinians to northern Gaza, and the IDF, they are continuing their attacks in the area. Hamas spokesperson Abu Ubaidah stated that the planned release of hostages on February 15th has now been postponed until, and I'm quoting here, Israel commits to and compensates for previous violations. Egyptian mediators who have been crucial in negotiating the ceasefire reportedly now fear that the entire deal may collapse. According to reports, Hamas doubts Israel's commitment to the agreement, suspecting that Israeli forces are using the pause in fighting to prepare for further military operations. Since January 19th, that's when the ceasefire came into effect, 5 hostage prisoner exchanges have taken place so far, with 21 Israeli hostages and over 730 Palestinian prisoners released. However, the latest planned exchange, which was supposed to see 3 more Israelis freed in return for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, is now uncertain. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz said that any deal and any delay in releasing hostages is, and I'm quoting here, complete violation of the ceasefire, and has directed Israeli troops to be on the highest level of alert. Meanwhile, for some Palestinians, Trump's ultimatum meant nothing.
Donald Trump, the U.S. president, says that if Hamas does not provide us with the hostages on time, Gaza will become hell. What hell? Hell worse than what we have already. Hell worse than killing. The destruction, all the practices and inhuman crimes that have occurred in the Gaza Strip have not happened anywhere else in the world.
They won't do anything because our destiny is in God's hands. What will Trump do? There is no fear. We rely on God.
Trump has also sparked fresh controversy with remarks about Gaza's future. He made it clear that under his vision, Palestinians would not have the right to return to Gaza after the war. And this stance contradicts statements from officials in his administration, who previously suggested that displaced Palestinians might be relocated. Meanwhile, regional tensions continue to escalate in West Asia. Jordan has firmly rejected Trump's call to resettle Palestinian refugees from Gaza, with King Abdullah preparing to meet Trump in Washington for high-stakes discussions. So, Trump has now drawn a red line. Will Hamas comply? Will Israel wait? And if the ceasefire collapses, how much worse will the war become? Will all hell break out? The clock has started ticking. Well, let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on this show tonight. French President Emmanuel Macron has taken a jab at US President Donald Trump for his pro-fossil fuel stance. We will get you the details in a short while from now. Also on the show, we will tell you about Hezbollah's post-war playbook and how it is now deploying a vast network to strengthen its base. All this after being weakened by its war against Israel. Next story is about Hezbollah's post-war playbook. The Lebanon-based pro-Iranian group may be reeling from the aftermath of its devastating war with Israel, but it's not showing any signs of slowing down. According to reports, the group is deploying a vast patronage network to strengthen its base, and that's even after being weakened by war. How is it doing that? We'll tell you on this edition of Gravitas Deep Dive. In the more than a year of relentless war that ended with ceasefire in November, Israel had managed to inflict heavy loss for Hezbollah. IDF strikes and attacks claimed the lives of thousands of militants and dismantled Hezbollah's senior leadership. The devastating impact of this war was felt the most in the Shia majority communities of Lebanon. That's the very bedrock of support for Hezbollah. If that was not enough, the dramatic fall of its ally, Bashar al-Assad, in neighboring Syria only compounded the challenge for Hezbollah. If you're wondering how, that's by damaging a major supply chain essential for its operations. It cut the lifeline from Iran, which is Hezbollah's patron. Now, under mounting pressure, Hezbollah is facing another challenge, sustaining the support and loyalty of its constituents. And so, its efforts have focused on reviving and breathing new life. And that's to its extensive network of social welfare organizations. Yes, you heard that right. Hezbollah has cultivated this network over the years. This network consists of schools, hospitals, and its construction arm called Jihad al-Bina. These organizations play an important role in rebuilding the community. In the aftermath of the devastating war, Hezbollah has deployed hundreds of skilled engineers to assess the damage inflicted upon homes and properties. Their mission? It is to restore the heartland of Hezbollah support base. Its post-war repair system is in full swing, and according to reports, in South Lebanon, every 4 or 5 villages, they are assigned a committee of about a dozen engineers. According to Jihad al-Bina, these committees have inspected more than 270,000 homes in January itself. Once the appraisals are reviewed by Jihad al-Bina's Beirut headquarters, residents are told to pick up their compensation checks and cash them at their local branch of Hezbollah's microfinance lender. It's called Al-Qard al-Hassan. According to pro-Hezbollah daily Al-Akhbar, $400 million worth of compensation payments have been distributed so far, and that too almost to 140,000 people. Well, these are people who lost their entire home. They are receiving between $12,000 to $14,000, which is meant to cover a year of rent elsewhere. Now, whether or not this is enough to cover the cost of trauma that the war brought, well, that is up for debate. But the report shows that Hezbollah is using cash to shore up power. Hezbollah's war with Israel caused at least $3.4 billion in damage to Lebanon. According to the World Bank, in December, Hezbollah's leader, Naim Qassem, has highlighted the state's responsibilities, saying in December that restoration and reconstruction will be on the governments to follow up, promising Hezbollah support. But a month later, the armed group was dealt with a political blow, and that's with the selection of a president and prime minister who are seen as committed to reducing Hezbollah's influence in Lebanon. Their nominations were championed by the West and the Gulf Arab nations. In fact, today, Lebanese government met for the first time since its formation. The government was formed on the 8th of February following a direct US intervention in the procedure, a step intended to bring the country closer to accessing reconstruction funds. Following the war between Israel and Hezbollah, and speaking to reporters at the presidential palace, the new Prime Minister, Nawaf Salam, said that his 24-member cabinet would focus on financial reforms, reconstruction, and the implementation of a United Nations resolution that is seen as a cornerstone to stability on the Lebanese border with Israel. The question being, how far then will Hezbollah's strategy work? Well, that remains to be seen. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is gearing up for a high-stakes meeting with US President Donald Trump. And his agenda is likely to be packed with a range of issues which have unfolded recently. Issues such as trade tariffs, the Chabahar port, and the deportations of Indians. And the stakes could not be higher. Let's first start with trade. According to a Reuters report, the Indian government is working on additional tariff cuts to ease tensions with the US and prevent a potential trade war. While Trump's top economic advisor, Kyiv had recently raked up India's high tariffs, claiming that they block American imports. Trump, remember, has also announced new 25% tariff on all steel imports into the US, a matter that has led to backlash across the world. In fact, the European Union and Canada on Tuesday said they were prepared to hit back on the tariffs, further escalating fears of a trade war. According to Reuters report, New Delhi is mulling tariff reductions in key sectors like electronics, medical equipment and chemicals to strengthen US exports. But this is not just about giving in to US demands. These changes also align with India's own domestic manufacturing plans. Well, the US is India's largest trading partner, and bilateral trade surpassed $118 billion in 2023 and 2024, with India posting a trade surplus of $32 billion. Another major issue that is likely to be in focus during Trump and Prime Minister Modi's talks is the Chabahar port. India has invested around $24 million in this crucial Iranian port, which provides a trade link to Afghanistan and Central Asia bypassing Pakistan. But now, the Trump administration has revoked the sanctions waiver that allowed India to build the port in the first place. In 2018, Washington recognized the port's importance for Afghanistan's reconstruction and gave India a waiver. But after the US withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, its stance on Chabahar shifted. The recent 10-year agreement between India and Iran to further build the port has put Washington on edge. And now, according to reports, the US State Department is warning that any entity doing business with Iran, including India, could face sanction risks. One of Chabahar's aim was to reduce Afghanistan's reliance on Pakistan and also give India a strategic edge over China's investments in Pakistan's Gwadar port, which is about 170 kilometers away. Apart from these two issues, another big issue that is likely to be in focus during Prime Minister Modi's visit will be immigration issues. And it comes against the backdrop of 104 illegal Indians being deported by the US on a military aircraft. The issue led to uproar and demonstrations in India's parliament, with several lawmakers flagging the inhumane manner in which the Indians were deported. India has also urged the US to establish a more transparent procedure for handling deportations. Furthermore, Modi and Trump's meeting is also likely to focus on issues pertaining to Indians or Indian origin people living within the US. India is hoping that the Trump administration will safeguard legal migration pathways for citizens, including the H-1B visas and student visas for skilled workers. Indians received around 75% of H-1B visas issued in 2023. Another concern is regarding the birthright citizenship. Trump wants to end that, a rule that would deny automatic US citizenship to children born to foreign workers. The order is currently blocked by US federal judges, but there remains a possibility of a higher court overturning any decisions. For many Indians living in US, the matter is a major concern. Well, Prime Minister Modi's trip to the US is equally important for the United States of America. Many US companies view India as a major market and have expanded their operations there. Likewise, Indian companies seek to establish themselves in the US markets. And at the end of 2020, Indian investment in the United States totaled $12.7 billion, supporting over 70,000 American jobs. The nearly 200,000 Indian students in the United States of America contribute $7.7 billion annually to the U.S. economy. So, as Prime Minister Modi prepares for his trip to Washington, D.C., there are a lot of issues that will take center stage with Trump. In other news, in a striking contrast of energy visions, French President Emmanuel Macron has launched a bold counter to Donald Trump's fossil fuel agenda while touting France's supremacy in the race for AI dominance. As the world races towards a digital future, two contrasting visions of energy and progress emerge from opposite sides of the Atlantic. Listen into Macron, who gave a sharp twist to Trump's drill baby drill pitch.
Last year, we exported 90 terawatt hour, 90, which means we can localize a lot of data centers on top of what we need in terms of electricity for our own companies, our own households. So it's very important in this world where I have a good friend in the other part of the ocean saying, drill baby drill. Here, there is no need to drill. It's just plug, baby, plug. Electricity is available. You can plug, it's ready.
Macron's stance comes as his nation positions itself to become a global AI powerhouse, attracting tech giants with promises of abundant, sustainable energy. This direct challenge to Trump's fossil fuel advocacy marks a dramatic escalation in the global debate over energy futures. Trump pledges to unleash American oil, promising to demolish environmental regulations and actively suppress renewable energy initiatives. His vision of economic revival remains firmly rooted in fossil fuel extraction, even as global markets increasingly embrace sustainable options.
The Republican platform is our pledge to end this border nightmare and fully restore the sacred and sovereign borders of the United States of America, and we're going to do that on day one. That means two things on day one, right? Drill, baby, drill, and close our borders.
Trump campaign slogan, drill, baby, drill, is more than a catchphrase. It's a policy direction. He promises to roll back environmental regulations, ramp up drilling, and slash subsidies for renewable energy. Trump wants to position the U.S. as the world's dominant fossil fuel leader. Shifting our focus now, China is back at it again. It has raised complaints about Arunachal Pradesh map in Bangladesh textbook. According to reports, China has raised objections over Bangladeshi textbooks depicting Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin as a part of India in a map of Asia. Beijing has claimed that both the textbooks and Bangladesh Survey Department's website show Hong Kong and Taiwan as two different countries rather than recognizing them as a part of China. According to Pratham Alo, which is a Bengali language daily newspaper in Bangladesh, China wrote to Bangladesh in the last week of November requesting corrections to the maps. Not only that, China also wanted information in the textbooks and on the Survey Department's website. After this, discussions were reportedly held between the two countries on this issue. However, in response to Bangladesh's purported request, China reportedly decided not to apply pressure on Dhaka on this matter, at least for the time being. According to this report on China's objections, Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs consulted the Ministry of Education and the NCTB and reportedly then told them that the printing was done and making corrections would be impossible at this point of time. Questions also arose reportedly about the feasibility of making such abrupt amendments. Bangladesh reportedly requested China to refrain from applying pressure at the moment and instead assured that the issue would be addressed. Later, according to the Bangladeshi media outlet, several former senior diplomats of Bangladesh have said that Dhaka has never previously encountered such objections from China regarding maps. But we are not surprised. China's problems with so-called factual variation issues have come up time and again in the past as well. According to Bangladeshi news outlet, experts believe China has raised this issue now due to the shifting political landscape in Dhaka, and that's following the student-led uprising and the increased tensions between Bangladesh and India. China has also been trying to completely change history by asserting the status of the northeastern Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, which China refers to as Zangnan. It unilaterally claims sovereignty over this Indian territory and time and again provokes India by releasing false China maps, showing the Indian state as a part of China. But just because China says it, it does not make it true. As for Bangladesh, Dhaka typically follows globally recognized methods and institutions when using global maps, at least so far. As for India, remember, India has firmly rejected such revisionist attempts by China. New Delhi asserts that Arunachal Pradesh has been and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. And no one, especially China, can change that fact. Renowned UK-Indian author Salman Rushdie took the stand at the trial of the man accused of trying to kill him, describing the events that led to the attack. The satanic verses author wore glasses polarized in one lens to mask the injury that left him blind in one eye, swore an oath, and began to describe the 2022 day when he was attacked. Rushdie narrated his ordeal in front of the jurors, saying that the stabbing attack that blinded him in one eye left him with a lake of his own blood. He described how he screamed in pain after the attack and was unable to see. Well, 27-year-old Hadi Matar is facing charges of attempted murder and assault. Matar has pleaded not guilty. His fate will be sealed by a jury after who will hear from several witnesses. The attack took place in the historic Chautauqua Institute in northwestern New York, where Rushdie was due to give a lecture. For many years, the author had been the target of threats to his life after he published his book, The Satanic Verses, in 1988. Prosecutors said that Rushdie came dangerously close to dying in the attack. That's during his opening statement. Prosecutor District Attorney described the swift and sudden attack by Matar, who stabbed the author in the head, throat, thigh and hand. The Prosecutor District Attorney added that Rushdie raised his hands to defend himself but remained seated after several blows landed. He also cited videos posted online that showed the moments after the attack when people dashed onto the stage to rescue him. However, Matar's attorney said the prosecutors will not be able to prove his guilt even with videos and photos. The trial will last up to 2 weeks. Aero India, Asia's largest defense aerospace show, is underway in Bengaluru, and aerospace superpowers America and Russia have seized this grand stage to tout their fifth-generation fighter planes. This display of rival stealth jets comes at a time when India is staring at a shortage of advanced fighter jets. Aero India 2025 stands out like no other defense aerospace expo in the world. This is the only event where rival aerospace superpowers, US and Russia, are showcasing their latest stealth jets. Russia has fielded their Sukhoi Su-57 built by the United Aircraft Corporation, and America is showcasing the F-35 built by Lockheed Martin. Well, all these jets, originally made to counter each other, are now roaring over Bengaluru's clear blue skies.
It is for the second time that America's Lockheed Martin F-35 is being exhibited at Aero India. This is the 5th generation fighter jet, which is actually more than 1,000 in number internationally. This is a jet that's operated by almost a dozen countries, including the US, and at least 8 more countries have ordered the F-35. So that is what makes this aircraft such a potent and significant one. And it's also America's most advanced 5th generation fighter aircraft.
And well, for India, the indigenous design and development of 5th generation jets, it is a work in progress right now. India's DRDO is working on a 5th generation jet, AMCA. Full form is Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. However, these jets are expected to be operational in numbers only after 2035. Meanwhile, neighbor China has 2 5th generation jets, the J-20 and the J-35. Recently, Chinese social media had also touted what appeared to be their 6th generation Chinese fighter jets in action. India's frontline fighters such as the French Rafale and the Russian Sukhoi 30 MKI are 4th generation jets. Well, what's even more concerning is that India faces a shortage of fighter jets. India must have a strength of 42 fighter squadrons to counter threats on 2 fronts. However, the Indian Air Force is now down to 31 squadrons as opposed to the required 42. And the number of fighter squadrons is to fall further.
India is the world's largest operator of the Russian origin Sukhoi Su-30 MKI fighter aircraft. In fact, the Sukhoi 30 is a backbone of the Indian Air Force's fighter fleet. Now we have Russia's latest jet and Russia's only 5th generation jet, the Sukhoi 57, being exhibited here at Aero India. This is a jet that has seen significant combat in the Ukraine-Russia war and also in Syria earlier. Russia has about 40 of these aircraft, and the significant messaging behind this aircraft being exhibited here is that this is formally the only 5th generation fighter aircraft that is on offer for sale to India. With video journalist Vinod from Air Force Station Yelahanka, Siddharth MP, WION World is One.
Well, something strange is happening beneath our feet. Scientists say Earth's solid inner core is deforming, reshaping itself in ways never seen before. Our next story takes a closer look at the discovery, which raises new questions about the forces shaping our planet's deepest layers. Take a look.
Planet Earth, our 4.5 billion-year-old home, harbors countless mysteries beneath its crust. While life flourishes in its oceans and continents, the planet's innermost sanctum is undergoing a dramatic metamorphosis that could reshape our understanding of terrestrial dynamics. Earth's core is the beating heart of our planet as it produces a magnetic field that protects us from the sun's radiation. Simply put, without the core, there won't be any life on Earth. A new study by scientists at the University of Southern California reveals that Earth's inner core is actively changing shape. This follows their recent confirmation of the core's reverse spin, suggesting our planet's heart is far more dynamic than ever imagined. Researchers confirmed that the inner core, which once spun faster than Earth's surface, started slowing down around 2010. Now it appears to be rotating slowly relative to the rest of the planet. This shift may be linked to the deformation scientists are now observing, though the exact mechanism remains unclear. Temperatures in the inner core exceed 5,400 degrees Celsius, with pressures more than 3 million times that of the Earth's surface. Yet, despite these extreme conditions, it is not a perfect, unchanging sphere. Instead, it appears to be slowly reshaping under immense internal forces. Using seismic waves from massive earthquakes, scientists track changes in the core's structure, but they can only infer what's happening from the way these waves bend and slow down. The latest findings suggest a dynamic and evolving core, challenging previous assumptions about its stability. The implications are staggering. Without this motion at the center of our planet, Earth would die and become more like barren Mars, which lost its magnetic field billions of years ago. The new research not only revolutionizes our understanding of Earth's internal dynamics, but also raises profound questions about the complex interactions between our planet's layers and their influence on surface phenomena. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The world's leading consumer goods firms are putting their money on a once-in-a-decade Mahakumbh in the hope that it would help reverse the slowdown in spending in India. Well, about 450 million people, including farmers, millionaires, office workers, are attending the 6-week-long Mahakumbh Mela in northern Indian city of Prayagraj. And ahead of the major bathing event on Wednesday, the Prayagraj administration has imposed new traffic restrictions in a bid to prevent overcrowding and ensure a smooth experience for devotees. Here's a report.
The Mahakumbh pilgrimage is being billed as the greatest gathering on earth. The event has attracted a rush of spending from global heavyweights including Nestle, makers of Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Reliance Industries, Hindustan Unilever and Reckitt Benckiser Group, the owner of Dettol among others. Mahakumbh is being touted as the biggest marketing opportunity in the world. The streets leading to the river Ganga, where Hindus believe one may wash away their sins in a dip, are lined with billboards, vendors and branded resting spots. Independent brand consultant Harish Bijud predicted that companies will spend around 36 billion rupees or $310 million on advertising and marketing. Big brands are using India's biggest pilgrimage to lure consumers. However, they have a challenging job ahead as the celebrations come to a close on 26 February. The Indian government predicts that the event will inject $23 billion into the flagging economy. While industry observers are skeptical of the massive crowds translating to major sales, this year's event is even more tempting for companies. It is considered exceptionally auspicious owing to a celestial alignment that occurs every 144 years. During the preparation, the state of Uttar Pradesh started constructing bridges, marketplaces and hospitals months in advance of the event to handle the huge flow of people, around 1/3 of India's entire population. Consumer powerhouses are peddling their products to a captive audience in the makeshift tent city along the riverbanks. From branded blankets to resting pods, to ads in temporary restrooms, to mini stores by rapid delivery service firms, to community lunches, to Instagram video posts for branding, to mobile ATMs and Kumbh-labeled debit cards. Companies are using the event for marketing their products in a significant way. Dolat capital market analyst Sachin Bobade remarked that companies go there to reach a massive audience. He predicted a small but noticeable increase in demand. Bobade said, "There's a fear of missing out on Kumbh. Overall market conditions aren't great. There will be some demand uplift, but it will not be major." He added, "The slowdown is a bit dramatic. We will need 6 Mahakumbhs to lift demand." The government, though, hopes the religious gathering helps the economy out of a slump. The big spending by large corporations focusing on branding during the event does provide significant optimism. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Hindu devotees across the world are rejoicing the festival of Thaipusam. The annual event commemorates the day when the goddess Parvati gave her son, Lord Murugan, a powerful lance to fight evil. The festival is celebrated with great enthusiasm in India, Malaysia, Singapore and other countries with large Hindu Tamil population. In Malaysia, hundreds of thousands of Hindu devotees, including ethnic Indian Malaysians as well as tourists, gathered at the Batu Cave temple every year to rejoice and celebrate the Thaipusam festival. Devotees walk barefoot up the temple's 272 steps to the most sacred cave, carrying enormous kavadis or portable wooden altars, decorated with pictures of Hindu gods and peacock feathers. Some worshippers pierce their bodies with hung hooks and chains from their bodies as act of faithfulness. The festival is a major event for the ethnic Indian community in Malaysia, which makes up about 7% of the country's 34 million population. The practice of carrying kavadis has passed through generations, and with it has come changes as well, such as the use of LEDs.
I remember that when I first saw my father doing kavadi when I was 6 years old, so I was thinking, what my father is doing? Then I followed him until the top, and on the next year, when I was standard 1, 7 years old, I first took a small kavadi. I requested to my dad that can I take one kavadi, and he did for me a small one.
For those who are having some problems or something like that, they will come and make a vow. So once the thing is happened, they will fulfill their vow by taking palkada.
Well, in India, thousands of devotees in the southern state of Tamil Nadu were seen thronging the temples dedicated to Lord Murugan on the occasion of Thaipusam. On this day in 1990, 35 years ago, South African leader and anti-apartheid activist Nelson Mandela walked out of prison as a free man. That's after 27 long years. A 26-year-old Mandela joined the African National Congress in 1944 and soon became a leader of the party's youth wing. In 1960, the massacre of peaceful black demonstrators by the police became a major turning point in Mandela's life. In the aftermath, he formed a paramilitary wing within the ANC that waged a guerrilla warfare against the white minority government. Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment on June 12, 1964, and spent the first 18 years of his 27 years in jail at a prison where he was confined to a small cell without a bed. Then in 1981, he was put under house arrest. In 1990, Theo de Klerk, the then South African state president, lifted the ban on ANC and ordered Mandela's release from prison. Post-apartheid, in 1994, Mandela became the first president of the Republic of South Africa and served as the country's head until 1999. Mandela died in 2013 at the age of 95. And that's all that we have in today's edition of Gravitas. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION The World. Stay tuned.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, the world is witnessing a strong, sovereign, and thriving Republic of India.
A historic meeting that could shape the future. Prime Minister Modi is set to hold crucial talks with US President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C.
My family!
Indian PM travels to the US for his first bilateral talks with President Trump since his re-election. Expect high-stakes discussions on defense, deportation and tariff, as India and the US work to strengthen ties. Stay tuned for continuous coverage, only on WION.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.